was going to say, I like kind of conversational, so, if I talk about a segment, chime in.
Okay.
Chitty chat.
Yeah, I'm okay with chitty chat.
Okay. All right.
Sucking the gut.
Sucking in the gut. Man.
His camera's crooked, but I mean, you notice that.
Yeah, I do.
Actually, it's not the first time we've done a naked session.
After 10 o'clock, we can do a naked session. It's in the contract. So
What'd you do to your finger?
I'm going to just do a little introduction. We're bad at this, so we've never really explained what the show is. So I'm going to try for a moment. I'm just going to say, hey, and welcome to Sightings, the show about young professionals in southern Vermont. My name is Mike Nigro, and with me is my lovely assistant, Aaron Hazlett. Actually, that's not Aaron Hazlett. This is our guest host for the day.
Yeah.
So
filling in.
This is Micheal Harrington, who we will be doing an interview with shortly.
Happy to be here.
Okay.
Happy to be your lovely assistant.
Thank
this
you.
evening.
I appreciate it.
Great.
If you watched the last show, you may think you know why Erin's not here tonight, because she did this drink segment that involved no drink. She was doing something about dicing pomegranates. It was probably enough to get her fired.
It
But the
sounds
truth
disappointing.
is, she will be back. It wasn't actually that she's been fired, but we appreciate having you today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be here. I was already going to be here anyway, so I'm happy to stick around and fill in.
Super. Let's have some fun.
Great.
So a bunch of exciting segments coming up. No financial segment this month.
It's a plus.
Next month, gas is cheap, right?
Well, and I say that because I have no idea about finances other than gas is cheap.
Gas is cheap. We have Danielle's drinks.
Okay.
Going to be learning about another cocktail today. We have a short rant, and we've got an interview with you, and that sounds like enough fun to me.
Perfect. Let's get it started.
All right, sounds good. You see that? That right there is the newest and latest technology. It's called a Polaroid picture, as in newest, latest technology circa 1981. So why do I have it today? Well, I happened to find this new updated Polaroid camera, and I brought it to a party, and I brought it around, and you know what? Everybody loves it. Everybody loves this thing. And it got me thinking, why? This is like the oldest kind of camera and the oldest technology there is. What is it? Okay, maybe digital cameras are great, but it's something different to be able to hold a photo in your hand, to be able to look at it, to be able to put it on your refrigerator and stick it in a photo album. How many of us have 1,000 pictures of our last vacation? Well, how many times do you go through those? But I remember paging through that photo album sitting on the side of your bed. So it got me thinking, how many things has technology made us forget? How many things are maybe better, but we're losing something? So I'm not saying that digital cameras are lousy or that they don't have a purpose, but I think we forgot something about what special feeling it is to hold a picture in your hand. I wonder how many things like that there are. So one of the things that we really want to do with this show is we want to spend time connecting with young professionals in southern Vermont and learn who they are, what they do, and a little bit about how they got there. And for one of our first guests to share some of that, we have Micheal Harrington from the town of Bennington. And Mike, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to let you do your title so that I don't goof it up.
Economic and Community Development Director for the town of Bennington.
Okay. So what I'm really interested in, and there's a few things I'm interested in, and it comes partly from my conversations with other young professionals.
Yep.
When I go to some of our young professional mixers in Manchester or in Bennington, I get a lot of questions from particularly recent college graduates about, I've got this degree, what do I do? How do I get there? And how did you get there? So those are some of the questions I want to get into today.
Sure.
I guess the first question is, what's that position really mean? What do you actually do?
What do you actually
do? Yeah, right.
Well, so I think economic and community development has changed over the years. And so if you look back through the people who have held this position before me, it has included things like running the town's revolving loan program. And the town has multiple revolving loan programs for small business, for housing needs. It has a grant program. So part of my role is actually seeking out grants for different projects we want to do in the community, and they could be things like infrastructure upgrades in town, or it could be a marketing plan that we want to put together, or a study that we're looking to do. We just did a housing study that was paid for through a grant we received. So those were kind of the foundational components. And it's interesting, though. I think there's a heightened awareness probably around the world about economic development and what does that mean, business recruitment, and how do we grow jobs, and how do people make more money, and especially how do you do that in rural America.
Right.
So part of my role has actually transformed, so I continue to do those pieces, but there's a much heavier role on how do you identify potential businesses that you want to bring into your community. What are the types of programs or incentives or outreach are you doing to attract those businesses? Some people think recruitment and they think, well, this person should be on a plane traveling across the country and trying to entice businesses to come to Bennington. I would argue that there are components that work, but part of the recruitment role is also making sure that the location is a desired location. And so some of recruitment is actually passive recruitment. It's about making sure the infrastructure exists. It's about making sure that telecommunications exist. It's the fact that, do we have the environment that's right for business to occur? So it's all of those components mixed into one.
So, that covers a lot of territory.
It does.
Is there any specific examples that you'd be able to share of maybe, I don't know, a specific business or a specific project that you've done while in this position, to try to illustrate a little bit what you're talking about?
You know, I think, well, one, it's important to point out that I've been in my role for about, it'll be 3 years in April, so just under 3 years. And most development projects take 5 years plus, you know, so, but there have been little wins along the way, and I think some of that is included. We've updated and upgraded some of our streetscapes in town, sidewalks, lighting, landscaping. Those have come through grants, so there's one going on right now. We wrapped up one the first year that I came on board. Another example is that we have some abandoned properties in town that we're actively working with developers to redevelop those properties. One that people might recognize is what was called the former Alcaro Motors lot, which now is LaFlamme's Furniture. And LaFlamme's Furniture originally burned down. It was on Northside Drive. Right. We were able to work out a program where LaFlamme's remediated a property that had some contamination to it because it was a former garage auto body shop. They moved into the downtown. They retained all their employees. They now take up more space and have a bigger showroom than they had before. So there's a triple win there. We were able to do a lot of different things with this one instance. So that's a good example of redevelopment.
That's a great example, because I was really excited to see that building has been empty for as long as I've lived in Bennington. So it's been a while.
I think the other components to that are identifying things in Bennington that are lacking or missing. You know, and it might be diversity in restaurants. So how do we identify locations and potential restaurants to want to look at Bennington and come in and start a business, or relocate their business, or start a second business? And it can be anything from that to a new coffee shop in town, a new jewelry shop in town. So again, there's some of those come on their own, and my role is really to be a support mechanism for them and help them start their business. Other times we're going out and looking for businesses that we think would be a good fit for the community.
And like I said at the beginning of the interview, I'm always interested in pathways of young professionals, because I'm guessing that you did not go to college with this particular role.
Not at all.
In mind.
Not at all.
How'd you end up? I mean, you sound passionate about this job. How'd you end up?
Yeah, so a roundabout way, and I think most of the time that's how most young professionals, I mean, there are many times when I talk to people, they're not doing what they went to school for. So I actually grew up in Bennington. I moved out of Bennington when I was about 10, just over the New York border. Still had a lot of family and friends in Bennington, so had a strong connection there. But I ended up going to college in upstate New York, went for radio and television broadcasting. It was at that point exactly what I wanted to do. Interestingly enough, probably what's different is that most people don't know what they want to do when they go to college, and they come out with a much better idea of what they want to do. I went knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and I came out having finished my graduate degree and had no clue. And so I was like, where do I go from here? I kind of like this, I kind of like that. I don't really want to do this anymore. I do want to do this. I slept on a friend's couch for a month in North Carolina. I moved to DC and worked in DC for 6 months. I had a job on Long Island for 4 days, and that's a whole nother story. And then I didn't have a job, and so I actually went back and lived with my family for a month while I looked for work, thinking, crap, now what do I do? And so what I ended up finding a job back in upstate New York at a college that I had never heard of, and I ran their student affairs program for 3 years, working with students, residential life and housing. I was the bad guy. I was the judicial guy as well. And it was a great experience. I loved it. But I needed to come back to civilization because this place was in the middle of the Adirondack Mountains. And so if you can imagine going from DC to Long Island to, you know, some little green spot next to a lake in the middle of a forest, you know, I was like, I need to find a happy medium here. And so I actually ended up coming back to Bennington, and I worked for my family's business doing management consulting and employee development. And I did that for a number of years. And I think one of the things that I did, though, was when I came back to town, I immediately got involved in a lot of different things. So I joined clubs, I joined organizations, I volunteered a lot because I came back and I had no support system, no network. And so I really wanted to learn more about the community and begin building connections. And I think, you know, as we talk young professionals, that's kind of the link there. And through that, I ended up developing a relationship with some town employees, and they actually thought of me when this position opened up and thought that I might be a good fit for it. And I interviewed, and that's how it happened. And so you say, why are you passionate about it? I mean, part of it is I like what I do, but I also like what I do in a community that I love. You know, so I have a commitment not just to my job, but to Bennington as well.
All right. Well, and that pathway interests me. Like I said, I think there's a lot of young folks, particularly recently out of college, that they need to hear a little bit of that message. That it sounds like you didn't necessarily have a plan, but you had strategies.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to take advantage of opportunities when they come up.
Yeah.
You know, so when someone offers you a job or offers you an opportunity, you got to be willing to jump on it. I mean, the other thing is sometimes you just got to be patient. You know, and I remember when I got let go from my job on Long Island, I was like, what do I do now? You know, I can't go back here. I can't do this. I'm going to go home and live in my parents' guest room, and I'm going to be the guy who's 35, you know, living with his parents going, now what do I do with my life? And it doesn't happen that way. You work your network. As long as you've created this network that you can rely on. I mean, that's how I found the next job. I started calling friends. I started emailing people. I started visiting people, and someone knew I was looking for a job, and they said, hey, I just heard about this. You should apply. And so that was really what helped me.
Sure. All right. Final thing.
Yeah.
Give us a little snippet. What's exciting? You're connected. You've got the inside track. What do I have to look forward to in Bennington or in southern Vermont?
Well, there's always opportunities and there's always things going on, right? So some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't, and some of them never happen. So I mean, there's always
is just between you and I right now.
Yeah,
it's not like
exactly.
we're on TV.
Yeah,
just,
no, it's
on.
not like he's holding a camera right there at all. It's going to be, I think, a fun spring. There's some smaller development projects happening in Bennington, but I think those will lead to bigger things. And so it's even things like we're seeing a convenience store, a gas station actually relocate, do a much larger spread. Sure. You know, there's been a lot of conversation and controversy over the years about the Walmart expansion in Bennington, but that's going to happen and it's going to start this spring. Yeah. So I think some of that redevelopment is going to fuel some interest. We've got a restaurant that's looking around, and that happens on a regular basis. We've got some other businesses that have asked about creating businesses in Bennington. The problem is it's so hard to gauge. I mean, some people are just fishing, and others are truly serious about letting Bennington be their next home for their business. So there's a couple different things, and if everything happened that I'm aware of right now, it would be an awesome 2015.
All right. Well, that's good enough for now.
Okay.
And when we're off camera, give me the secrets, right?
Probably.
All right, welcome to a segment we call Drinks by Danielle.
I'm Danielle, right?
You were Aaron earlier.
I was Aaron earlier.
And
I'm
now you're
Danielle.
Danielle.
Perfect.
I appreciate how flexible you are
Yeah.
with this entire
Well,
process.
right.
All right, so
I don't know how Danielle feels, but I hate stemware, just so you know.
we're going to get to that.
I
believe
know.
it or not.
I see it here, and it's freaking me out
We're going
right
to
now.
get there. I'm so glad you're ahead of me. You've got this
Perfect.
all. So here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. This is going to be a little loosey-goosey. I am not a professional bartender.
Nor am I.
And neither is Micheal here. But we do both appreciate the drink that we're going to share today. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm not going to pretend that this is 100% by the book. So
There's going to be no accurate measurements.
it's not. Yeah, this is. We're
All
going
right.
to teach about the Manhattan. The Manhattan. It's going to be a little bit of loosey-goosey Manhattan.
All
but
right.
what do you think when I say Manhattan? What do you think?
Bourbon.
Bourbon. Okay, that's great.
And some fruit.
And some fruit. I mentioned to somebody I work with. I said, what do you think when I say Manhattan? They said old ladies. And that's a bad rap because you know what? The Manhattan's a wonderful drink. So we're trying to break people of that idea.
All right.
The Manhattan's a wonderful drink. We're going to talk a little bit about it. And as you said, bourbon.
Yeah, tell us what we got here.
So what do we have? We have
What are the ingredients?
10-year bourbon. This is a bullet bourbon. That is how it's pronounced, right? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, good. So this is a bullet bourbon, tasty bourbon, 10 years aged. So bourbon is aged in a charred wooden cask, and this one sits in that cask for 10 years. And that's what the base of a Manhattan is.
Okay.
So stemware. So if you go to a restaurant, a lot of times you're going to get this drink in a martini glass.
Up.
I hate martini glasses.
I don't do stemware.
They're terrible. I mean, first of all, look at it. It's all tippy. You spill it. These things break if you even nick them. So suggestion number one, I don't care what the bartenders say, don't get it in a martini glass. We, here at Sightings, we do our Manhattans in a rock glass.
Yeah.
Bam. There.
Phenomenal.
So that just
You've
happened.
already made my night.
I think we've already taken this up a notch.
Yeah.
Just this start. Okay. So the next thing is you pop a cherry in here. Danielle, our usual bartender, she does fancy stuff. Just chunk it in there. I'm not worried if you got to do rim work.
Yeah.
Just chunk it in.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
And then bourbon, and give it a little. Right. Yeah. Sure. It's loosey-goosey. It's a loosey-goosey Manhattan. There, it's a little splash.
And we should point out that it's also tonight, there's no ice, but there is sometimes ice.
Sometimes you would have ice. So if you had ice, maybe you'd put it in.
Yeah.
If you did not have ice,
Right.
that would be a perfect time to not put ice in.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
tonight we're going to opt for the not put it in because we don't have ice.
Yeah.
So, simple as that, right?
So neat.
Neat.
Neat, as they call it.
Neat.
Yeah. So this is a neat.
This is a loosey-goosey,
Neat
neato Manhattan.
right.
That's exactly what
All
we
right.
are dealing with here. So, bourbon. That's the key to a Manhattan. We got our bourbon. Next, a little bit of sweet vermouth.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Can I tell you, once I bought the wrong vermouth?
ooh, that's bad.
Bad idea.
Bad.
So make sure you get the sweet vermouth.
Hey, you got dry vermouth, right?
Well, I actually was looking for the dry, and I put sweet in. They taste nothing alike.
Nothing. Yeah, that's true. Now, dry vermouth good in a martini, but
Yeah.
you really usually want a splash. So we're talking about a splash.
Or
Don't
a,
overdo
or
it.
a dollop.
Was that a dollop?
Yeah.
I was feeling splash. That was a dollop.
Yeah, it was more of a dollop,
I'm sorry.
but-
Well, listen, we're not bartenders. What can I tell you?
Well, you know what here's a rule of thumb.
yeah.
When you accidentally pour more of one, you need to offset with the other.
Exactly. The same thing happens when you're eating Cheerios and you have milk left over at the end. You have to
Right.
put in more Cheerios and then
Exactly.
you need more milk. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
Same idea, right? And finally, you put in a dash of bitters.
Do you even know what bitters
Yeah, I
are?
was just going to ask you. There might be sardines in this, or maybe that's Worcestershire sauce.
I'm
I
sure
don't know.
it says on
but
the bottle.
I don't know. It says like secret ingredients. Secret ingredients. I don't know. I don't even know what it is. But you just need a drop. I mean a drop.
One.
This stuff it's intense.
All right.
Does it smell that? It's intense.
It's bitter.
Right. So one drop of this stuff. We don't really know what it is. It's bitters.
Right.
All right. So there we have what we like to call a loosey-goosey Nigro Manhattan. However, my first suggestion, you know what I think you should do with this Manhattan? Get rid of it. That's gone. You know why? Because it's made with bourbon. And this is a beautiful bourbon that's spent 10 years waiting in a cask for you to enjoy it. So why would you waste any time mixing it with other things? So you know what? Manhattan's good, but I just changed my mind. I say
What's
if
better?
you're going to have bourbon, drink bourbon.
Great.
My biggest complaint with the grays in my beard is they're on one side and not the other. I mean, at least they should really come in symmetrical.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm starting to get, I got the grays in my beard too.
I don't like it. You know, I don't mind it in my hair at all, but it just doesn't feel right in my beard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My problem is that my white starts like right here. So it doesn't go anywhere except right here for right now. So I got these racing stripes.
Yeah, oh, that's all right. That's all right. It looks distinguished.
You blowing smoke?
A little bit. Okay, so another thing we like to do, Michael. This is your first time on
Fill
the
me
show,
in.
so let me fill
right.
you in. Another thing we like to do for sightings is we like to talk about things going on in southern Vermont. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but some people think there's not much going on here.
I hear it all the time.
That's baloney. That's baloney.
I would agree. You got to look for it,
I got
though.
a page full of baloney.
You got to look for
out
it.
Here. Okay, so why don't you start us off? Talk a little bit about some of the mixers.
So I'll start talking about young professionals, specifically young professional mixers. We've got 3 to mention. The first is January 21st, the Bennington Young Professionals. It's going to be at the Mount Anthony Country Club, always on the 3rd Wednesday. And always check us out on Facebook. That's where you're going to find most of your information. And actually, as we talk about the next 2, we've got the Northshire Young Professionals. Again, their next event will be on Facebook. And if you put in Northshire Young Professionals, it pops right up on Facebook. And then this is where it gets a little confusing. So we've got the Southern Vermont Young Professionals.
Yeah, and they scoop up a lot of the outlying towns. So
Yeah, more towards the east.
Yeah,
though.
a little bit more towards the east.
So Brattleboro, Wilmington, Stratton. Again, you're going to have to look on Facebook for when their next event is because it's not posted at the moment.
And they move theirs around. So
Okay.
they're in different locations. If they're not close to you this time, they might be next time.
Okay, great. That's what I got for young professional stuff coming up.
So Vermont Arts Exchange. So if you haven't been to the Vermont Arts Exchange, it's in North Bennington, Vermont. It's a very funky place. It's in this old factory, I guess,
Yeah.
right? And they've got a stage, and it's a great venue. They have shows. They do all sorts of really cool stuff there. I'm excited that we found it. I'm going to start going there all the time. So they have a bunch of stuff coming up. Saturday, January 10th, Ellis Paul. Do you know who Ellis Paul is?
I have no idea.
You probably don't. Okay, he's a folk singer. He's a little folksy, but I got to tell you, this guy.
So you've heard him.
I'm really into him. I've heard him a bunch of times. Super cool. If you like storytelling and good music, this is your guy. Ellis Paul, January 10th, Vermont Arts Exchange. Excited. Friday.
Part of their basement music series.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. So Friday, January 23rd, they have something called the Dust Bowl Revival. I meant to check what that was before today, and I haven't. So that's.
But where can people go to find out?
www.dustbowlrevival.com.
It doesn't get much straightforward than that.
Good job. All right. Saturday, February 7th, the Cash Registers, an old school punk rock band. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Friday and Saturday, February 13th and 14th. Actually, this is not in the Vermont Arts Exchange, so I'm going to shift gears. This is
and people should actually look, because I have a feeling some of these locations may change. They're still part of the Arts Exchange.
Oh, is that
But just
right?
keep an eye on it, because I think they may try to do some different locations.
Okay, they have a website, Vermont Arts Exchange?
They do, Vermont Arts Exchange. Interestingly enough, it's exchange with just an X.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Not EX.
Exchange. Okay, got it.
And if you think about it, and you'll figure out why there's an X and it's not EX.
Okay, so Friday and Saturday, February 13th and 14th. So Valentine's Day, guys, we've got just what you're looking for. Obviously, this is a stressful
This is a
time for all of
reprisal
us.
because they've been here before. I went last year.
This is Gypsy Lane. How would you just, I don't know what to say.
Cabaret.
Cabaret.
Pretty risque.
Yeah, clothes,
Optional.
not a lot. Yeah, not a lot of clothes, and that's happening at the Old Castle Theater. Really cool venue, the Old Castle Theater, right in downtown Bennington. A fun show, actually. I think that's what I'd say.
People have a good time.
A silly, laugh out loud, fun show with not a ton of clothes.
They sold out last time.
They did. They're a big event. I went last year.
Oh,
Yeah. Should I admit that?
well, I went too. so.
Okay, all right. That's good. Paramount Theater in Rutland. I'm always talking about how much cool stuff they have. January 16th, they have a live band that's doing Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm pretty into that.
Cool.
January 22nd, improv comedy. Don't know much, some.
Do you know who's doing the improv?
I don't, so that's why I say I don't know much. Yeah,
Okay.
no. But February 6th, again, Paramount Theater in Rutland, the Capitol Steps. So if you haven't, do you know the Capitol Steps?
No.
Okay, these guys are Senate staffers, so congressional Senate staffers that do kind of an improv skit comedy.
Interesting.
And they travel around, so these are very funny guys.
they're gonna be in Rutland?
But with a political angle. Yeah, I don't know how
right,
they
well,
found us,
that's
but
great.
they did.
Yeah.
Hey, we have senators, you know
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, we
so,
do.
Okay, so that's probably how.
Just two,
That's
like everybody else.
like everyone else. Very good. All right, this is getting educational. All right. So if you have any other events and you,
I should say though, there's two New Year's Eve parties. Granted, this may air after New Year's Eve.
it will.
Okay, so never mind.
And they were great. All right.
we went to both.
Terrific. They were super. Had a blast. Still recovering.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I think
You did bring your Polaroid camera though.
I did. So we
Maybe on
we
your
can
next show
travel
you
in
can
time
share
a
some of
little bit.
those photos.
That's a good
All right.
idea. All right. So I think that's it.
Great.
We did it.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you very much. Thanks for coming.